Well, good afternoon to all. Here we are again for a very exciting session coming up. Since morning, we are having important discussions on the in the BFSI sector on various cybersecurity initiatives and what all importance the digital world is being playing specifically when we are using contactless payments. Friends, so this is a very important aspect, but then we need someone to enable this system also. We need manpower, we need skilled professionals who will be guarding our system so that the contactless payments and the future is secure. And we all are using our banks from our mobile phones. So even at midnight I'll sleep happily that what all transactions I have done or I am doing will be safe and secure. So, to discuss on this important agenda, we have got, a panel with the important panel, Ms. Deepa Sheshadri from Deloitte, Ms. Priya Madhvan with the Future Skills NASCOM, Mr. Vittal Raj, he's a senior partner and an industry expert, and Mr. A. Subramaniam from Standard Chartered GBS. So now, without taking much of a time, I request Priya to take the honors and take the discussions ahead with the audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Deepak. Thank you so much for setting the context, and welcome all the distinguished panelists to this session. We are going to be discussing about the change in roles that cybersecurity is facing in the digital banking scenario. I'll just start with a quick introduction to our eminent panel. We have Deepa. Deepa is a partner with Deloitte. She has about 22 years of experience. She is part of the Cybersecurity and Technology Controls Advisory Group, and she has specific experience on enterprise governance, risk and compliance, and cybersecurity strategy-related work. Welcome on board, Deepa.
Thank you, Priya.
We have Vittal. Vittal is a seasoned professional. He's a risk assurance and cybersecurity controls professional and trainer with over 25 years of experience, working with clients in a wide variety of verticals on IT governance, cybersecurity, privacy, IT assurance, enterprise risk management. He's also a member of RBI's Standing Committee for Cybersecurity and IT Examination and member of IRDA Information Security Group. Welcome on board, Peter.
Thank you, Priya. Hi, everyone.
Hi. We have Vaiti Subramaniam. He is Vice President, Cybersecurity Services at Standard Chartered Bank. He is a security professional with more than 12 years of experience in cybersecurity consulting, information risk management, IS auditing, assurance, information security governance. So we have, welcome on board, Vaiti.
Thank you, Priya. Hi.
So thank you so much for taking the time out for this session. So just want to give a heads up on the data that India has with respect to digital banking. And I think we are probably one of the pioneering countries using digital banking. So usage of digital banking and contactless payment has surged during the COVID-19 pandemic. And Indian consumers are actually opting for digital and contact-free payment experiences instead of using cash. And the percentages are pretty interesting. 68% of Indian consumers are now using online and mobile banking to conduct financial transactions. And this survey was done by FIS. And 48% of respondents expect to use contactless payments instead of cash or card post-COVID-19. And additionally, the report says like the young and the senior Gen Y, that is 24 to 39, which is like the average age of the Indian population, are very, very adaptive to using online digital payments for their everyday activity. And the mobile payment wallet is on the rise in India. And today, digital wallet transaction in India actually doubled from last year. It is about 253.2 crores in May 2020. May 2020 this right now, and it was 124.3 crores in February 2020. So that's been the amount of payment happening through the mobile wallets. So we are in an interesting phase in the banking vertical. And this discussion, what I would like to understand from all of you is a few set of questions. First, I'd like to start off with you, Deepa. So what I'd like to understand is what is your take on the impact of cybersecurity due to digital transformation in the banking sector? How do you see cybersecurity services getting affected when banks are undergoing digital transformation?
Okay, thanks, Priya. You've mentioned a lot of numbers, which is startling. And one way, it's very good that people are getting onto the digital banking, right? As far as I look at it, it's a very positive kind of a move, considering it's going to be from a digital standpoint. But at the same time, we will also need to be cognizant in terms of the enhanced cybersecurity that needs to be there. I was reading a certain report sometime last week, and it spoke about around over 3,000 cyber attacks that happen every day. It's not specific to banking, but overall, from overall cyber attacks that happen in India. And it said that, it's X number of times more than what it was in 2016, right? So to that extent, cybersecurity is gaining a lot of importance. And in banking, it was always important, but now with the digital banking, it is even more important. And from the generation who are using the digital banking, there could be users who are not used to doing banking earlier through the digital banking. So the awareness and the social awareness among people should be much higher than what it was earlier, right? It's not only corporate users getting onto the digital banking, but it is more the normal citizens who are getting onto the banking scenario from a digital standpoint, where the social awareness needs to be much higher than what it was earlier. So for me, I would look at it more as an opportunity for everyone than a challenge. It's a good opportunity that is in front of us, but a lot of things need to be taken care from a cybersecurity standpoint, Priya.
Wonderful. Vittal, for your thoughts?
Thanks, Priya. I think Deepa has set a wonderful context, and thanks to your explosive context on the numbers. So I think it's pretty clear. I mean, if you sit at home and in the COVID times, all else, whatever happened, but then one thing is there, but those who never even had the mindset to look at digital payments or the digital have gone digital. And, it's as they say, the very first steps. The first payment that you need to make on, it also a shiver, but then once you make it, it's very hard to get out of that. And that's what the hackers like, because they say, welcome, we really love you. And when more and more of cyber agnostic or cybersecurity agnostic get onto the digital channels, and that's exactly where I think the challenge really starts coming up. But it's good that, as Deepa already said, that yes, it is great that more and more people in our country especially are getting onto the digital channels. And not only that, I think somewhere these e-commerce marketplaces have played a huge role, because if you really look at why banking is happening so much, one of the key things is tier 3, tier 4 cities, excuse me, have recorded turnover like nobody's business during these times. So which means that obviously all of them needs to get paid. So thanks to all these digital payments, it's making these things happen. And not only that, I think hackers have been more than active during these last 2 years. And needless to say, I mean, earlier, if you're using mobile banking, then you had to really worry that you'll get hacked. But now if you're sitting at home and you still have a mobile banking enabled account, you would still get hacked. In fact, the hackers don't leave you. They will call you up and hack you. So that's how it's happening. As we see the kind of Jamtara kind of calls that people get, and that's where you lose yourself. So there's a huge challenge for organizations who are offering these services. And let's please understand the banking landscape. Banking is no more, as Gartner says, the banking of yesteryears. In fact, as Gartner says, maybe a couple of years down the line, the banks as of today would not even exist. And we see that happening because lesser and lesser physical branches getting opened. I'm sure many of us have not even visited our branch since quite some time, at least a year for sure, because the COVID has kept you out there. But then what's happened is that the mobile offtake during these last 2 years has been such that maximum sales with vernacular language access has happened in tier 3, tier 4. That's almost a significant amount of the sales that happened, which means a very, very positive sign to say those that were at the bottom of the pyramid or somewhere at the bottom of the geographical pyramid as well, they are kind of getting onto all this. And that's, I think, is going to possibly signal an explosion in the way that e-commerce would work in this country. And that kind of throws open the challenges to every organization that has anything to do with payments. And that's where I think you will see that the regulators have been getting extremely tough at it. If you see, Reserve Bank of India recently came out with the Master Direction on Digital Payments, and it's a pretty comprehensive regulation. So which means that things are happening, and happening on either side of the good and the bad things. So you need people to handle all this, and people who understand the business, who understand security, who understand the technology, who understand the way that the hacker works, and then need to really make sure that they fix all this before the hacker can get across to you. And you have to play with the rules, and the hacker never really goes by the rules. So it's a challenge. So that's where I think a lot of jobs up there, for taking by cybersecurity experts, many of them lying vacant and more getting added.
Super. Vaiti, for your initial comments.
Yeah, now that I'm actually working in a bank, I can actually add more to the kind of stress that we have from a cybersecurity perspective as well, right? I mean, gone all those days, where even product launches would take 3 to 4 months, right, in a bank, and now we are looking at an app-centric kind of where the applications and new products in a bank are getting launched in, like, say, 3 days and 4 days time frame, right? And now there are, like, say, clear strategies from bank perspective to go for the cloud first adoption as well, right? So I think all these, though we appreciate the kind of digital transformation that's happening, the kind of role that as security leaders that we have is we really don't have that kind of liberty that we have, like, say, 5 years back, where we said, no, we don't have the time. It's going to take a lot of time for us to actually implement this solution. We cannot say that anymore. We just have to say that how quickly can we get this up and running, and how safely we can do it. And that's the kind of message the business also wants to kind of hear from us, right? Because the waterfall model, right? I just want to add on to that. I mean, earlier we had the waterfall approach model of application development that used to take, like, say, 3 to 4 months time, right? And now it's, like, say, a weekly sprint, a more of an agile based model that companies are adopting too. And there's no more weekend deployments. It happens every day, right? You just can't say my weekend window is going to be so and so, and you just plan for it, like, say, a month before as such. So, but now things have completely been thrown open. You develop something, you get it deployed in the next 2-3 days. So from a cybersecurity perspective, it throws a lot of challenge for us as well in terms of being more agile and in terms of being more responsive to our stakeholders, and then see to it that none of these security controls are actually compromised. I think from that perspective, it gives us more opportunity, and also it gives us more opportunity, especially in the field as such, right? We are looking for, like, say, more experts to come on board, particularly from certain domains, like, say, cloud or a blockchain and all of it, because these are transformative technologies that we are looking at, right? So I think it's absolutely imperative for cybersecurity professionals. I mean, if not 4 years back, but at least for the next 4 or 5 years, we are really going in for a big digital disruption, and cybersecurity is going to play a very, very major role in that.
Wonderful. I think you gave a segue to my next question, but then just to quickly summarize on this point. So digital banking is great, but then it is opening up a lot of challenges for cybersecurity, which in a way is good, that you will have a lot of employment. You will have various different roles to ensure that the banking is safe, and the people who are using it are also made aware of what potential dangers are there and how to handle them. Wonderful. So going on to the next question. So you gave a segue, Vaiti, in terms of the new roles that are getting created now that we are moving into cloud. So there would be a lot of people who need to have expertise on cloud. Then you had agile project management probably, and then DevSecOps. So what are the different types of roles that you are seeing? We'll start with you because you started off that point. So what are the different types of roles that you're seeing because of digital transformations, the roles that are getting created in the cybersecurity space?
One area I just want to touch is API, right? I think that's actually kind of blooming big time over the last few years as such, right? Because there's not an application in your BFSI without an API. Right? So there's been so many partners that banks actually work with within the airline industry, hotel industry, tourism industry. I mean, a lot of wickets of the banks gets loaded there, right? So the point is, we always kind of rely on these APIs. So it becomes all the more important. In fact, the kind of attacks or the incidents that we have actually seen in the last months, our ecosystem is primarily on these misconfigured APIs being built and managed, right? So from that perspective, one of the area that we actually have a lot of opening, right? So we just want more security experts who can actually build their knowledge in terms of how to actually securely manage and build these APIs for the business as such. That's one area. The second area, as I said, is cloud, right? So I mean, whether you kind of be an AWS or an Azure, I think from a security perspective, it is all the more important that you kind of get some bit of fundamentals on how exactly the things are managed from a cloud perspective. The third area that I actually see something that's growing up, privacy, the security privacy technologist kind of a role, right? So because what's happening in most of the banking ecosystem is there's a shift left culture, right? So when we actually design and build applications, a business really wants to understand how do we factor in security at that stage itself rather than leaving it as an afterthought, right? So I think that's one area that I think is something that as security experts people need to kind of focus on. And I think these are three things that I just had it in my mind that is really opening up now.
Very valid points. In fact, almost 7-8 years back, banking was a sector which said, I'm not going to move into cloud. But now I think it's completely changing, right? So all the banks are moving towards cloud to make use of the benefits. Deepa, for your comments.
Yeah, I think the third point that Vaiti mentioned in terms of having a techno-functional kind of a background on the banking sector, that is gaining importance, Priya, and especially when you look at fintechs, right? So they need people. They could be an expert from a cyber standard. I mean, let's take a cloud or an emerging area. But it's also important for us to know the functional background in terms of how this processes work within a bank, right? So creating that function, having the right functional background plus a bit of technology and being able to work along is one of the key areas that I think that's coming up. And also considering the privacy related requirements that are coming up, I think people with a lot of knowledge from a privacy standpoint will be very important to be on board from a banking standpoint. And also from, coming from the background that I come from, Priya, I think there are a lot of skill gap from a cyber, there is a lot of demand for cyber professionals who can kind of a lot of things in terms of red team or, the penetration testing and also knowing the various, technology within a bank. Let's take, you have a switch, right? How do I do an, cyber security around a switch? So the core banking experience, cyber knowledge is what I think there is quite a bit of demand. Priya.
Thank you so much. Vittal?
Well, I think a lot of roles already there for grab. If I may touch on certain of them, if we really look at the tone at the top, unless and until you have somebody who takes the ownership of security at the board level, you really don't have really security selling there, because no budgets, nothing would really come out of that. So it's very important that at the board level you have got cyber aware, cyber security aware professionals who are there to guide the strategy of the board. So that's coming as a very important requirement. And if you really look at what regulators are doing, for example, RBI has mandated that every director of every bank in India needs to get trained on cybersecurity. It's a 2-day program. So you can imagine we are making the directors for 2 full days, and they have to go through an evaluation. So that's the kind of push that we are really looking at to make sure that the leadership, it gets on to the what cybersecurity really needs. And obviously the big question that everybody at the boardroom faces is, how do I really crack this cybersecurity? It's so complex. So that's where, as Deep also touched on it, you have to look at the business side of cybersecurity and the not so business side or the tech side of cybersecurity. And there is in between the management of this entire thing, which actually plays a very important role. And these require wise minds who understand the vertical very well, and who understand how technology plays out to their growth, and then look at what can go wrong, understand the risk management part of it, and make sure that you actually are delivering on that. And unless and until that really comes into place, which is a big gap, let me tell you, most organizations don't have a CRO who understands cybersecurity, including the banks. There are very few of them who understand, because it's pretty complex. We don't blame them. But the challenge really is to get that kind of skill set in place, which would make sure they drive this entire architecture of things. In fact, as Vaidhi put it, the biggest challenge today is, if you really look at it, the technology is so damn complex. Earlier, when you went to a bank and say about 10 years back, banking software means this is banking software or banking system. That's it. You defined it and said, okay, everything was done. Today, it's not like that. You see, the maximum front ending of all this software is either bought out components or built out components, and that is where the huge challenge of making these secure really starts coming up. So then comes the big question of, do you understand data of your organization? And that's where data governance, you require professionals to really tell you what exactly do you have to protect, because if you start running behind technology, it's a wild goose chase. So you got to run behind data, and that's a part that the business would like to do that. So you require professionals in that space. And then, of course, I think Deepa and Vaidhi have touched on the other aspects. One important aspect which is going to find a lot of demand is the compliance, risk and compliance professional as regards IT regulations. If you really look at the kind of regulations the last couple of years, they've really grown like anything. SEBI has put out cybersecurity requirements for every kind of market intermediary. SEBI has put out separate guidelines and requirements for listed companies. There is, of course, the Companies Act, which has very clearly laid out requirements on risk management. Of course, cybersecurity is part of the game. So if you really look at this, plus you look at the verticals of IRDA and RBI, of course, which has been the leader in all these regulations, I think there is a whole lot of work that needs to be done. And mind you, the NSA, and if you really look at the way that government functions and the government department functions, the CISO is mandated for certain departments. So you got to find people for that. While initially it may all look fine, but you cannot go with just base level knowledge, because you have a lot of things at stake. For example, if you really look at the EVMs which got voted out, and we imagine the security issues around that itself, we require experts on that. So I think a lot of avenues wherein you really need skill sets. The key thing is the technology is galloping faster than we can imagine. And cybersecurity has to do a lot of catch-up game. So which means that you are going to find geometric progression in availability or need for availability of these skill sets. So I think we have to really run faster than we can to stay at the same place.
Yeah, I think we really have to buck up speed with what you're saying. So going on to the next question that I have here, though we did kind of discuss the job roles and skills, I would not again repeat on the skills that are required, because that kind of got addressed here. So what is the boardroom's expectations from cybersecurity team? Deepa?
Yeah, so I think Vaidhi touched upon it. Most of the banks have a specific member who heads the IT committee of the board. So there are specialized people who are looking at the board's initiative. As far as the board is concerned, I was, as per the Gartner's recent survey from a board of directors standpoint, cybersecurity seems to be the second biggest risk for them, just after risk in compliance, right? So the board is extremely concerned in terms of the cybersecurity, especially from a banking standpoint. We were talking to some of the independent directors. We came up with a thought paper in terms of how the board's role is going to change in the new normal that we are talking about. And one of the key things that they mentioned is they are more worried about the third party risks that come from a bank standpoint, right? It's the extended enterprise that they are worried about. They may have a very secure systems within the bank, but then there are a lot of interfaces that happens in, especially from a fintech standpoint, right? So that is number one. The second thing is, again, we've always been there is another mandate that's again coming from the board, is in terms of making sure there are enough budgets from a cybersecurity standpoint. So one of the questions that we had asked the board member is, we always get a pushback from the bank saying there are not too much of budgets from a cyber side. So the board member, the independent directory clearly mentioned, Deepa, they have the banks have to find ways and means to making sure the cyber security budgets are being addressed, right? So there were no confusion in his mind to say that cyber security is kind of the priority item from their side. So from a board standpoint, I think they are very, very clear in terms of having the right strategy in place. Let's take any particular framework that the bank is having. They want to make sure that that is available. Those gets updated on a regular basis. That meets the requirements from the various regulations that are there from the bank. So having the right strategy is one of the items. The second important thing that they are looking at is in terms of incident response, right? Earlier, maybe they were looking at more in terms of the IT security as such, but now they're looking overall in terms of the other risks that could be there. Other than IT risks, there could be other risks that could have an impact from a cyber security standpoint. So they're looking at that. The third important thing, I was just in the CII summit this morning, and one of the key things that the independent director who was there in the panel mentioned, that even today, awareness, cyber awareness has been one of the important things. And he was kind of saying that we as a group needs to come back and share certain incidents that happen across banks, being not naming a particular bank, but have a group that can kind of exchange those incidents, right? And so that the other banks can learn, or other players in the FS market can learn about it. So information sharing in terms of incident response, making sure that we have the right cyber skills and the right cyber talent, where some of the important topics that are coming and emerging, Priya, from the discussions that I have had with various board members.
Very, very useful, very, very useful points actually. And in terms of sharing of information, are we doing it to some extent in India now that we have certain also shares some notices, but I don't know within banks how it's not so much of a regulation, right, that the banks need to share information, but I think information sharing would definitely be very useful for, as you rightly said, without quoting the bank, it's just that incident happened and how they handled it. I think that will be very useful.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Lovely points. Over to you, Vittal.
Yeah, maybe on the information sharing, because I work with the RBI, I can tell you that at least with RBI, there is very clear mandates on information sharing. Only that, in fact, you have a system called as IB card, wherein every bank is required mandatorily to report every incident and in a particular taxonomy. And so that's already happening. Not only that, in fact, there is a huge initiative which is also happening in terms of automating the entire regulation and supervision, which is going to see a significant amount of information sharing, which is going to happen, because we could be looking at a future not very far off, wherein the RBI would directly connect into your networks and without really telling you, try to assess your security, try to understand what kind of information that you have on the threats and the incidents. So that's very much happening. And I would think that IRDA and SEBI also are following suit with the information sharing, certainly given due importance, because one thing which the hackers like is two organizations, when they don't talk to each other, two departments don't talk to each other, that's gold for them, because that's where you have zero-day attacks and all that's happening. I must say that the Certin has been doing a wonderful job in this regard. So they have been trying to help organizations to, as much as possible, to really catch up on wherever the vulnerabilities are on that. Coming back to the board's role, I think just to add to what Deepa said, I think one of the key things that most of the boards really are wanting to understand more keenly is, one, of course, there is a paranoia to say, oh my goodness, the cybersecurity certainly is something we got to eat and digest. But the problem is digestion, because when the CISO comes and presents a report, they don't understand what exactly is going on. Because as you know, board members confess me, they say, what is the question I asked this guy? Because it's too complex for me to understand. So I think that's where really the conversation really needs to start, to say, how do we look at the business point of looking at cybersecurity investments? And that's exactly, I think, where the boards are also looking at understanding that more, because unless and until that ice gets broken, you are not having a conversation. It's a one-way kind of monologue, because the CISO comes and presents it, and then there could be an external expert who understands that, but beyond that, then what is the big question. Many boards are doing a wonderful job on that. Many committees are obviously getting to task, but then, as I said, again, the big challenge that really comes up is to say, what is the kind of, do we have a kind of structure to all this, the way we should function? And that's where I think we got some fantastic frameworks which organizations have started adopting quite some time. Of course, ISO 27001 has been there for quite some time, but the NIST cybersecurity framework is kind of gaining popularity, because we are not just looking at, okay, we are moving from the prevention kind of heavy approach to resilience kind of approach. So you're taking for granted what we call as the assumed breach theory, to say that you will be attacked anyway. So tell us what I'm going to do from there on. So I think that's where I think cybersecurity resilience is really taking on the boardroom agenda significantly. I think that is going to change things. Not only that, I have seen that boardrooms are now taking a lot of interest in education, cybersecurity education and awareness creation, because they started understanding, if you have a well-aware employee who understands how things can go wrong, you can actually protect an organization much, much earlier than maybe later in the curve. So that's kind of happening. Not only that, investments are coming in, yes, but as boards are also starting to mature, there is yet a big catch-up to do in terms of many verticals which are not yet regulated, but actually under significant risk, because payments is everywhere. So hackers want to get into everywhere. So that's where I think the other boards also need to play a catch-up game in other verticals, wherein you really got to look at how do we go about doing that. And that is where audit and penetration testing certainly play a very critical role as a kind of, a health checkup, to really tell the board to say, where do you stand in terms of a readiness on cyber crisis management? So that's, I think, where the whole conversation on a clarity between cybersecurity governance, cybersecurity management, implementation, and audit is really kind of becoming key pivots to the entire equation, I think.
Fantastic. Actually, with respect to awareness and education, I think most of the time when we hear about the breach, it would be the human link was the weakest link there. So making the employees aware, I think, is one big step towards having a safe banking. Vaiti, for your comments, please.
Yeah, one thing that I actually observed the last couple of years is that the cybersecurity risk is now looked as a principal risk by the board, right? Because earlier, cybersecurity risk used to be bundled under the operation, so it will not get that kind of weightage with the board. But over the last few years, what I observed is most of the banks have now, thanks to the kind of breaches, the kind of cyber incidents that we have, and thanks to regulators, now cybersecurity is being made a principal risk to the bank. So which means the must present metrics to the board quite often, and also must be very transparent, right? And one point that also vital is that why isn't that the budgets are not approved for cybersecurity? More often than not, when I just kind of listen to other forums as such, as one common tone that I get from the CISOs and security leaders, we really don't get those budgets. And one of the reasons that I actually found out was that when I speak to one of the board members was that I don't understand this. For example, there was this one such case, CISO from one of the other reputed bank presented saying that there's the obsolescence in the bank is actually impacting 1,000 systems as one of the metric. So what is the message trying to drive there to the board? It's absolutely not clear. So I believe from a CISO standpoint, also from a security leader standpoint, we just need to kind of make it very clear from an impact perspective. What would be the impact of this obsolescence on the bank, right? From a financial perspective, regulatory perspective, and then kind of present your case to the board as to why you want this kind of budget to kind of come now as such. I think this is where. Secondly, what the board also expects from the CISO that they really don't want to understand how you actually managed it in the past, how you are managing it now. What they also want to understand is how you will be managing it in the times to come, right? That's, I think, one important aspect that as security lead that we need to kind of present to the board. The other point that I also wanted to understand is that I mean, from what I observed is that it is important for the board to understand the risk appetite particularly to these cyber losses that are happening, right? And what I get to hear from the board is that, from board members, is that what is actually our peer companies are doing with respect to this. So this is one common question that is always being asked to the CISO. How are my other banks are actually kind of managing this kind of an obsolescence, for example? How are they managing it? And secondly, so the point is that the board is also getting a kind of a comprehensive independent assessment. More often than not, when I actually find these reports that are actually presented to the board, they actually have only given an inside perspective of how things are within the bank, right? So they don't give an outside perspective. How does the customer actually sees the bank? So I think that perspective is something that the board is also expecting as such. And one thing that actually struck me was that I was actually speaking to my friend a few days back. He's based out of Israel. Not sure how far this is true, but what I understand is even if they want to open a savings bank account in a particular bank in Israel, they actually demand the cyber security roadmap for that particular bank before they even kind of open an account. I mean, that's how matured people are there. So I think it's all the more important, as Vital said and Deepa said, that we make it as transparent as possible. Give the clear tone to the business in a simple language as such, because the moment we bring in this subject of cybersecurity itself, there's a preconceived notion to the members sitting in the chair that it's going to be complex, right? So they have a predefined number they're going to approve as such. So I think maybe it's because of the fact that that's how things were being presented earlier. But I think going forward, with such digital disruption is going to happen, it's all the more important that we get more budgets, and it's all the more important to see people present to the board on a language understand. They get the right amount of budget both from a people, process, and technology perspective, so they create a more secured bank as such.
Excellent points, Vaiti. So I think we probably going close to the close of this session, but I just want to conclude it by saying that cybersecurity is very critical, even in the digital transformed. It becomes even more critical in the digitally transformed world, and board also considers cybersecurity very important. As Deepa said, it's the number 2 priority for the board. And to make all this happen, we need to have people geared up with newer skills that they could play a very prominent and a useful role in the digital banking sector. Before we end, I just wanted to tell the audience here that we have formed an SIG, special interest group, between DSCI and NASSCOM Future Skills. And incidentally, Vittal and Deepa are members of that. And they've actually come up with a roadmap for BFS people who are working in BFS. What are the few skills that they can pick up and then play very vital roles in the digital banking sector? So if anybody of y'all who is listening into this conversation would like to take part or contribute, you could actually drop in a mail. I will just send my mail ID on the chat. In the meantime, let me see if I can quickly share my screen. Deepa, Vittal, can you all see my screen?
Yes, it's quite small, Priya, but then we can see the screen.
It's small. So what I'll do is maybe make it slightly bigger. So just to give
I think
so just to give a context, like Deepa was talking about cybersecurity assurance professional. So if somebody today in the BFS vertical is doing any of these roles, they could be an inspection auditor, a compliance officer, they can just have these additional few skills that they can pick up and then start playing the role of the cybersecurity assurance professional and control assessor. So this is one of the roles that I'm talking about. Similarly, if they want to play a role in the BFSI payment system security, and they are doing any of these roles today, they could be doing any of these roles, then with a little additional skills that they can pick up, they can start contributing in the new role. So this was an exercise that was done by the group, by the SIG. And we would be happy if people in the banking sector would like to contribute towards this. We'd only be happy to hear your views and opinions. Let me just type in my mail ID here. So it's very evident that there are a lot of openings because of digital transformation, and a little bit of upskilling can actually give a completely new career for people in the banking vertical itself. And one of the studies said that in the ITS field, not necessarily typical banking professional, that if people don't get reskilled or upskilled in the digital future skill technologies like AI, big data, cyber, and all that, they will become obsolete in about 2 to 3 years, 50% of the existing population. So that was one of our drivers to see what is it that we could look at people who are in the existing field. If they want to move to cybersecurity, always there's a huge gap for the demand is always very high when compared to supply. So we thought, let's look at the banking professionals itself and what are the additional skills they need to pick up so that they could move into cybersecurity roles. So this was a small initiative from our SIG. But thank you so much.